All right, well, after the last episode's fumbling of feeding, or I guess positioning would probably be the better term, positioning the longer logs on this, for today's video, I'm going to find out what really is the optimum length for a firewood log going on this, because I know we have viewers and customers from coast to coast and from north to south, and it seems that like in the Midwest, like Wisconsin, Minnesota, somewhere in there, there's like the logs get delivered at like 102 inches wide. That would be ideal for this. Where I am in northeastern Pennsylvania, we get them in anything from 20 to 24 footers, because that's how our log trucks out here are built. If it's a front loader, we can definitely do 24 footers and longer. If it's a rear mounted loader, it's got to fit between the back of the cab and that loader, so you're probably like 20, 22. So I want to find out today what is the ideal length of firewood log for this. So we're going to buck up a couple different pieces. We're going to go like 8 feet, 12 feet, 16 feet, and then I'll show you what I was talking about on the other video, where you can pick up the full 24 footer, buck it in half, process the half that you're holding, and pick up the remaining piece off the ground later. So with that, I'm going to grab the chainsaw, grab a couple samples of firewood logs here. I do have one big ugly one that I'm probably going to save for like the 16 footer, because it's got some, different characteristics to it, so you'll see that in the video. But again, let me fire up things and we'll stage this all out, and I'll show you just what I'm talking about. All right, so like I said before, we're going to try different lengths, and they're not perfectly 8, 10, 12, 14, and well, this one's 22. But so I tried making it where it was like, all 16-inch pieces with like a little, pie slice left over at the end, trying to count for, the 18HX harvester bar, the 7/32 diameter chain, all the stupidness. So we'll see how good I did, but they're roughly as marked here. We're gonna pick them up, throw them on, and go from there. Now, what I should have been doing yesterday with these longer ones was, you'll see a black mark out here. That's about the halfway point. So I'm going to try and bring, this arm in about that far away, so it's centered up on, the saw bar itself, for bucking that in half. Instead of fighting with something that's longer, you would really think, after I've been doing this for 10 years, yes, I have been selling Halverson products for a decade. We were actually Glenn's first dealer, so therefore I am his longest dealer, or longest around, that have been moving these products for him. But yeah, I should have learned early on just to stop screwing around with the big stuff and just buck it down. It is actually faster, but golly, it makes a really good video when a 24 footer goes across there and you're just knocking out piece after piece. But I digress. For today's purposes, 8, 10, 12, 14, and a big one. So let me get the camera put back up in the tripod, and we'll see how all this goes. Well, now I'm curious on how much wood we did and how fast we did it. Looking at the camera, I had a little warm-up start up with the machine. Definitely wasn't running wide open throttle on the first one, just trying to get some heat into the unit because it's an old machine with like 6,000 hours on it, so not going to beat that up too much. But it was right around like 14-15 minutes looking at the video, so I know the international standard for these is right about a 1/4 cord per tote. So go ahead and throw this in a quick little time-lapse piece because I know you don't want to just see me throwing firewood for the next 3 minutes or so. And we'll see how much is on the ground. We'll level these off and see how much firewood we actually made. Let's see how we did. Definitely know we had 2 totes that were full, so that's a 1/2 cord. In 15 minutes, that would mean, you know, roughly a full cord every 30 minutes. So 2 full cords an hour if we just filled 2 totes. But there's just enough here to say, I wish it was just like another, like a 12-foot piece or something. We definitely would have been able to fill this last third one here for almost 3/4 of a cord produced in 15 minutes. So I don't think that's too shabby. And that's, you know, the transport time too, back and forth from where I'm processing to the wood pile. You know, there's some time savings there. It's definitely not the most ideal setup that I've ever done. I normally like to have, you know, a conveyor feeding the bags and just working from one spot, just kind of keep eating into the pile. And I'm still learning the controls, so like there's some efficiencies that could be saved there. But, you know, for the novice guy, even if it's a 1/2 cord every 15 minutes, that's not bad. And this third basket's kind of like bonus area. So yeah, I think we could be scratching on, you know, 2.5, maybe, you know, 3 full cord an hour with this 160. Again, quantity in is also your quantity out, and these just are not big pieces of wood. I mean, there's my hat that covers up most of the faces on the log pile here. These were not the biggest pieces in the world that I was putting up on there. You know, the maximum cut diameter on this is like 23, 24 inch with that big yellow bar. So I think if you were definitely running some beefier stuff on it with an 8-way, yeah, I could definitely see, you know, this turning out some pretty decent numbers as far as cords per hour. But let me throw the camera back in the tripod and we'll close this one out, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I will admit it was quicker doing it with the shorter pieces. I think ideally like a 12-foot piece. I don't want to tell Glenn that he's right, but what he has on the internet's not wrong. So does that admit that I was? I don't know. Either way, 12 feet, maybe 14 is like right about the perfect size piece for this. And like you saw on the last piece that we ran through this, you definitely can bucket in half, process the half that you're holding, and then pick up the piece that you cut off. Just because I really don't like running a chainsaw, just ripping half of a big pile like this in half. So I think there's definitely, you know, something to be said about putting the right size log up on this for maximum efficiency. Obviously we filled, you know, 3 baskets, and I don't think the biggest piece in there was more than, what do you say, 14, 16 inches maybe. A couple of them were smaller than that. So again, like I said earlier, quantity in is your quantity out. It's really tough hitting the big cordage numbers when you're feeding it with baseball bats, but you know, get on some nice 18, 20-inch stuff. I think there might even be like a 4th tote sitting here just because of the sheer size, but you'd have to put the 8-way on it. So this is just how we got this one with the 6-way. I definitely am going to put an order in for an 8-way. I have a customer down south of here that has a campground, and they're looking to do just this, like what I was doing here, as part of the reason we were shooting this video, is so they could see it. But like I was talking with them on the phone, please give me a phone call. It's 833-SPLITTER. It's 833-775-4887. You can also email me at sales@shaverequipment.com. Would love to talk to you, discuss your needs, discuss the budget, what kind of options, what kind of wedges, and really just take it from there and give you a line-itemed quote right to your email. You can look down through everything right with the shipping costs if you're not picking it up here. So give us a phone call, shoot us an email. Do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button, because we're going to have a lot more videos coming out here with the Halverson stuff. And actually, I'll go ahead and I'll tease it now. I do have two 120s here, so I'm really curious, does an $11,000 processor really compete with something that's almost 37 grand? So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.